It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. Well, in a rare development in Nigeria's multifaceted, multi-religious and multi-ethnic society, Christians and Muslims yesterday rejected the claim by some prominent United States officials that there is an ongoing genocide against Christians in Nigeria. Decrying it as a misconception, the Christian Association of Nigeria in the north, as well as the Jama'atu Nasirul Islam, the umbrella group for the Nigerian Muslim community, as well as the Muslim Rights Concern, stated that the killers should be regarded as criminals who have no preference for any religious sect. They dismissed the United States' recent classification of attacks by terrorists in the country as genocide, describing the claim as exaggerated and capable of deepening divisions in an already fragile nation. According to Cannes, JNI and Muric, while violent attacks on religious communities are tragic and unacceptable, the situation in Nigeria is far more complex than the U.S. reports suggest, explaining that attributing the crisis solely to religion ignores the underlying causes such as poverty, banditry, and political manipulation. Well, in a move that could significantly reshape Nigeria's electoral calendar and reduce post-election disputes, the National Assembly has proposed that the next presidential and governorship election be held in November 2026, 6 months ahead of the traditional February-March schedule. The proposal, contained in a draft amendment to the Electoral Act 2022, was unveiled yesterday during a one-day public hearing organized by the Joint Committee on Electoral Matters of the Senate and House of Representatives. The amendment sought to ensure that all election litigations were concluded before the swearing-in of newly elected leaders on May 29, 2027. If adopted, the change would mark a historic shift in Nigeria's democratic timetable since 1999. Explaining the rationale, Chairman of the House Committee on Electoral Matters, Honorable Adebayo Balogun, said the adjustment was designed to allow sufficient time for the resolution of all election petitions before swearing-in ceremonies. Also, about a month to the People's Democratic Party elective National Convention, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State has warned that the party is like a moving train and anyone attempting to stop the convention will be crushed. Arise PDP correspondent Mary Chinda reports.
It's the inauguration of the Transport Subcommittee of the November 15th and 16th National Elective Convention of the People's Democratic Party. Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde, whose state is hosting the convention, also doubles as the chairman of the Transport Committee. He is reassuring the party of smooth conveyance of delegates.
If you look at the attendance in this room, we are all from every corner of this country. PDP is in every ward of this country.
The management of the NCOC sat down carefully to select each and every one of you into this committee. Because we know, both individually and collectively, you've always been there for the party.
Speaking on the impending defection of the Enugu State Governor Peter Mba, Makinde says the party remains solid.
If you're saying somebody is defecting, our house is not in order, democracy is about conflict and conflict resolution, and also the resilience. In fact, we must be happy that we have a party that has refused to be distracted, that have stayed focused on what the Nigerian people would like to see.
The governor fields questions from journalists regarding the internal crisis and his purported intention to contest the 2027 presidential election on the platform of the PDP.
I'm old enough to set an agenda for myself. For us, we must have a party before anyone can have an ambition. So all the effort right now, except you're saying that, no, forget about having a party, just focus on ambition. So nobody's going to set an agenda for me.
The elective convention is scheduled for November the 15th and the 16th, despite several attempts to scuttle it. Eri Chinda, Arise News.
All right, we're now being joined by Benga Ashiru, who will be with us throughout the program. He's joining us from our Abuja studios at the moment. Good morning, Benga. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Ojinika Okwe, and good morning, Rufai Oseni.
Morning.
Great to be with you here this morning.
Good to see you.
Great to see you this morning, Benga. A bunch of stories to unpack. I'm sure that you listened to my headline earlier. I talked about, religious leaders rejecting, the term genocide, Christians against Christians in Nigeria. And of course, we have the National Assembly proposing 2026 for presidential and governorship election. And of course, we see here a governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, saying that Nigerians should not be concerned about the recent defections of governors from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress. I mean, he also stated that, such defections, if they lead to, reduction of food prices, then we should be worried. But, we shouldn't worry that governors are defecting. We have seen now Peter Mba, who is actually holding a press conference today, defecting to the APC, and we're also hearing reports about Doyo Diri. And then what are your thoughts, if you can unpack those stories for us?
Okay, I think we should start from the election, the proposed 2026 November election. That's still in the proposal stage. And I think it's in line to bring Nigeria's election reality into a proper framework and a working document that would protect the sanctity of the ballots. When you look at it, it goes with Section 4, subsection 7, that that the House of Representative candidates, the election should be concluded at least 180 days before the expiration of the tenure. And likewise, Section 4 of the Electoral Act, subsection 5, speaks similarly on the presidential election, which will be concluded before the expiration of the presidential tenure. In as much as this is established, I think this is to address the lacuna and the huge volume of legal weight, burden tied to our electoral process and to preserve the sanctity of the ballots. I think this is a welcome development. This would also put pressure on the key stakeholders of governance to address the budgetary system. Right now, we are having overlapping budgetary provisions, 2024 budget, the concurrent, the supplementary 2024 budget, and also the 2025 budget. But when you realize that your tenure will be expiring earlier, you would want to fast-track your plans and your reforms. So I think that this is a welcome development so that issues of legal controversy could be addressed, because it defies every sense of logic, and it is quite disingenuous that we would be having a legal tussle and the person holding the instrument of power is also party to the case. So it goes without saying to know where this issue will pander to. So I think to create transparency, to create fairness and equity, and to also restore the nation's electoral integrity, I think that this is a very good step in the direction of sustaining and restoring our electoral integrity in Nigeria.
All right, Benga, thank you for that submission. I guess I'll bring you in, Rufai, on your thoughts. I don't know, do you want to chime in on the
other stories? You should talk about other stories,
Would you want to talk about, the religious leaders rejecting the term
Governor
genocide?
Rufai, and remind me, okay, the perception of genocide.
Genocide, yeah.
This has been refuted by religious leaders, and I think that in every society has its worldview as the collective view of the people, and the elders as the custodian of knowledge. This speaks to the fact that only we can tell our story. Only we have that empathic level of understanding of what obtains and what subsists in our society. The Western culture tries to label Nigeria in a way that is very convenient to them. But I think that what is missing in our narrative is the institutional framework that will drive this agenda. It's time for Africans, it's time for Nigeria in particular to come out loudly, stronger and clearer to sell the narrative of the world of who we are as a people. This is very fundamental. And with the president very reluctant in appointing ambassadors to strategic missions of the world. That is what we are saying missing in this narrative now, and that is why the U.S. government could describe the nation as Nigeria as a country of particular concern. If you look at this narrative, it's been moving from a country of particular concern now to genocidal attacks. So when we have an astute ambassador, we might not be saying that if there is a funding deficit, we might not be saying that the government should appoint ambassadors to all countries in the world. But in diplomacy, there's what is called concurrent accreditation. You could merge some of these countries. We have the structure, even at the consular level, and also the charge d'affaires level. So, but a country like US, as strategic as it is, we cannot afford to toy with the absence of an ambassador to this country. And likewise, institutions like the United Nations that runs a multilateral diplomacy, that demands a multilateral diplomacy and multilateral agreement. There is a need for a permanent representative that will give Nigeria a voice at the highest global decision-making body, I beg your pardon. So, when we look at all these deficits, we'll discover that it's an institutional and governance failure that is addressing this narrative. Because if an astute ambassador has been appointed to a country like US, they are called grade A missions, countries like US, UK. Even Ghana is also a grade A mission. So we need to quickly, as a matter of urgency, deploy a competent ambassador, a career ambassador. Okay. I would recommend to drive this narrative. Yes. Then also talking about the PDP. I don't know if I still have time to comment on that.
Real quickly, Gbenga, just really quickly, if you can.
Okay, the governors are the funding pillars. I think the PDP now is appealing to what I would call the argumentum ad misericordum, which is appeal to wishful thinking and appeal to ignorance. The governors are the powerhouse because political realities are power realities, and if the funding pillars, the funding structure of your party is defective, it calls for concern. You cannot say that the PDP is a moving train and it will crush every obstacle on its way, that the convention would, that's what cost. Right. Here is Wike, as controversial as he is, he has made a submission of 6 points that have legal backing. So I think that the House should come to order, should call itself to order and address and find an amicable or political solution to some of these grievances so that it can be in good stead ahead of the 2027 elections.
All right. Political solution. All right. Rufai, your thoughts on some of the stories. I don't know if you want to touch on the Christian
I want to touch on all the topics.
Okay, great.
At first, I'm a huge fan of Formula One. There's something called an undercut in Formula One. What they are doing now is a political undercut. An undercut is simply when you get into the pits, you have another car driving before, you get out before the car to be able to take position ahead of the car. I do not support this. It's part of gimmicks and ploy. Now they want to push elections to 2026 because there's momentum. That's just what they are doing. See, if you say you want to push election in 2026 because you want courts to hear the cases on time, I don't subscribe to that argument because a lot of people have not even trusted the judgment of the court in those cases. Oji, is not the same Supreme Court that waited 6 months after the expiration of state of emergency to today? They've not even heard the case of state of emergency, or maybe they want to start hearing the case now. So as long as the courts are in bed with the the politicians, you cannot still get fairness in court. The only fairness is when the people see that elections are free and fair. In recent times, the 2015 elections as conducted by Jega had the less petitions about 611. Others have had over 700. Why? Because there was a uniformity of thought as regards fairness. And you don't need 180 days to be able to go through the process. Kenya decided election petition in 2 weeks, Oji. Kenya, election petition in 2 weeks. So after you complete the election, let people bring their evidence and they decide in the courts. So it is not this that will make all of a sudden things change. And what they should focus more on is the case of electoral reforms, use of beavers, use of technology, authenticating all the gray areas we talked about in the last election. That's what we should focus on more, not this kind of political undercut they're trying to do. As regards the case of Christian genocide and all of that, we have always admitted all this while that, see, this heinous crime perpetrated by these criminals affect all of us. But you see, no matter how much Murik and Khan writes letter to the Americans and say the crime perpetrates all of us, that's not going to absorb the government their statutory responsibility as enshrined in Section 14, subsection 2 of the Constitution, to be able to provide security for the people. We keep saying, oh, criminals are invading our lives, but we are doing criminal deals with bandits. A community in Katsina the other day was just doing criminal deal with bandits. So why can't government stop this insecurity? Because we are saying, yes, it affects both of us. We agree. You are saying it's Christian nationalists, a movement in America that is pushing all this narrative. We agree. But why can't government solve the problem of insecurity? Rather than playing to the gallery, we think by sharing 1 million Bibles and we don't do what the Bible says is going to turn the tide. And like my brother said rightly in Abuja, today we don't have ambassadors that will be able to even plead our case. A country that has run for so many years without ambassadors. So look at the joke that we have become. So we can talk all we want. Why can't we force the government to solve the insecurity problem? President Buhari came in because they said Jonathan didn't do a good job as regards the security. The insecurity has persisted 10 years after the APC. So who is deceiving who? Where are the Chibok girls? Where is Leah Sharibu? And as I nail my point, Sheyi Makinde can try as much as possible to be the hero. He can try from here to Kutu Wenji. But it will not stop me telling him the truth. You see, the truth is this. When you throw a stone to the markets, remember, it will come and hit one of your own. The same stone Sheyi Makinde and Wike and G5 threw to the market is now coming to hit him. He wants unity in the PDP. They want to do convention. Who scattered the PDP when the things didn't go their way? It's not Sheyi Makinde and Wike and his cohorts. All right. Today they are now fighting. He should enjoy the destruction he meted out on his party because they were all against Atiku Abubakar.
All right. All right. I endorse that idea of having ambassadors to be able to negotiate our plight overseas. I think it's about time. It's something that we have been calling for a while now. I don't know why we don't have ambassadors, but it's good to see that these religious leaders are backing the federal government with this claim, rejecting the idea that there is a Christian genocide in Nigeria. But we also need to see more data of the killings, which is something that I've always advocated for, so that we know where to place our, our grievances at the moment. But I also I endorse the idea, Rufai, of these electoral reform, because it's one of the biggest issues that we have in Nigeria. These petitions that, are not concluded before the elections are over. I like the fact that they want to amend the Constitution in order to shorten the time for tribunal from 180 days to 90 days. And also, in that bill, the Electoral Amendment Act 2025, it will include, and I'll read it out to you, other critical integrity measures such as mandatory electronic transmission of results and that provides for early voting and essential personnel, of course, demonstrating a broad effort supported by key stakeholders. And, this electronic transmission of results.
Yeah, those are the areas they should look at.
Really, touched on here. And it has to be said here, if we don't have credible elections, we're not going to have good leaders in Nigeria. And so I think that, if this is going to bring efficiency in our electoral reforms, I completely endorse that move. Well, all right.